If you grew up watching action movies in the 80s and 90s, you probably remember Mel Gibson holding a gun. These 7 firearms defined his career on screen. This video examines firearms strictly as historical movie props and within a film analysis context. It is not about real-world use, tactics, or instruction. Starting off at number 7, we have the flintlock pistol from the Patriot released in the year 2000. This firearm takes us way back in history. Flintlock pistols date to the early 1600s. They work by using a piece of flint that strikes against steel to create a spark. That spark ignites gunpowder and fires the ball. These pistols had barrels between 8 and 12 inches long. They weighed around 2 to 3 pounds. The caliber ranged from 50 to 75, meaning the lead balls were fairly large. Muzzle velocity sat around 800 feet per second. Every shot required manual reloading. You had to pour powder, pack the ball, and prime the pan before firing again. Throughout the year 1700s, flintlocks were everywhere. Soldiers, civilians, and revolutionaries all carried them. In The Patriot, Gibson plays Benjamin Martin, a farmer and widower living in South Carolina during the American Revolution. He wants nothing to do with the war at first. But when British soldiers kill his son, everything changes. The flintlock pistol becomes his weapon of choice for close encounters. One scene stands out above the rest. Martin hears the sound of cannons in the distance. He grabs his flintlock and loads it with a melted toy soldier that once belonged to his son. That detail hits hard. The pistol fires once, and its puff of smoke marks a turning point for his character. Later in the film, Martin faces Colonel Tavington in a tense standoff. He raises the flintlock slowly. You hear the click of the mechanism. The film uses that moment to build dread before the final confrontation. This prop anchors the historical setting and connects Gibson's character to the era of colonial defiance. Moving to number 6, the sawed-off double-barrel shotgun from Payback, released in 1999. This type of firearm has roots in the 1800s. Coach guns were originally designed for stagecoach guards who needed something powerful at short range. Over time, people started cutting down the barrels for easier hiding. A sawed-off shotgun typically has barrels under 18 inches. It fires 12-gauge buckshot and weighs between 5 and 7 pounds. It only holds 2 shells, so every shot counts. After 2 blasts, you have to reload. In the United States, sawed-off shotguns have been regulated under the National Firearms Act since 1934 because of their concealability. If you notice when movies nail the details or completely miss them, this is the kind of channel to subscribe to. In Payback, Gibson plays Porter, a career criminal who gets betrayed by his own partner and his wife. They leave him for dead after a heist. Porter survives and spends the rest of the film trying to recover exactly $70,000, the amount he is owed. The sawed-off shotgun becomes his tool for getting answers. The film has a dark, gritty tone, almost like a throwback to old noir movies. Porter hides the shotgun under his coat and pulls it out when he needs to make a point. One scene shows him kicking through a door and blasting his way into a room. The recoil shakes his whole body. Blood sprays across the walls. In another moment, Porter holds the shotgun to a thug's head while asking questions. You hear the hammers click back slowly. That sound carries more weight than any dialogue. This prop fits Porter's cold, calculated approach to revenge perfectly. The shotgun is loud, brutal, and leaves no room for second chances. At number 5, we have the M16 style rifle from Were Soldiers, released in 2002. The M16 has a long history with the American military. Eugene Stoner designed the original AR-15 in the 1950s. The military adopted it as the M16 in 1964. It fires 5.566 NATO rounds from a 20-inch barrel. Unloaded, it weighs about 7.5 pounds. The rate of fire sits between 700 and 900 rounds per minute. Magazines hold either 20 or 30 rounds. Muzzle velocity reaches an impressive 300 feet per second. Early versions had problems with jamming, especially in the humid conditions of Vietnam. Soldiers had to keep their rifles extremely clean. Over time, improvements fixed most of these issues, and the M16 became the standard American service rifle for decades. Most people miss this detail even after watching these films multiple times. Did you notice it? In We Were Soldiers, Gibson plays Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore, a real-life officer who led the 7th Cavalry into the Ia Drang Valley in 1965. This was one of the first major battles between American and North Vietnamese forces. The film shows the chaos and horror of that engagement. Moore carries an XM16E1 variant throughout the movie. You see him land at landing zone X-Ray, with the rifle in his hands as helicopters circle overhead. The tension builds as enemy soldiers close in from all sides. During one intense sequence, Moore leads a bayonet charge. He fires the M16 relentlessly while moving forward. The chrome bolt gleams in the sunlight amid all the smoke and dust. The film even includes moments where rifles jam, a nod to the historical problems soldiers faced with early M16 models in the field. Gibson's performance makes Moore feel like a leader who stays calm under impossible pressure. He moves through the chaos, rallying his men while bullets fly past him. The M16 becomes a visual symbol of American involvement in Vietnam, carrying all the weight and tragedy of that era. Every time Moore chambers around, you feel the stakes of that battle. Number 4 brings us the Heckler & Koch MP5 from Lethal Weapon 3, released in 1992. This submachine gun has been a favorite of special operations units around the world since the 1960s. German engineers at Heckler & Koch developed it based on the G3 rifle. The MP5 uses a roller-delayed blowback system, which makes it smooth and reliable. It fires 9mm rounds at a rate of 800 rounds per minute. The weight ranges from 5.5 to 6.5 pounds, depending on the variant. Magazines hold either 15 or 30 rounds. Different versions exist for different purposes. The MP5K is a compact model. The MP5A3 has a collapsible stock. Police and military units adopted the MP5 starting in 1966, and it became a go-to weapon for SWAT teams and counterterrorism operations. In Lethal Weapon 3, Gibson returns as Martin Riggs, the loose cannon detective from the first 2 films. This time, Riggs and his partner Roger Murtaugh go after arms dealers selling weapons on the streets of Los Angeles. The MP5 shows up in several action sequences. Villains use various models against Riggs throughout the film. During a subway shootout, Riggs dodges bursts of MP5 fire while trying to close the distance. The rapid sound of the submachine gun fills the enclosed space. Later, during a firefight at a burning housing development, Riggs grabs an MP5A3 from a fallen enemy. He uses it to push forward through the flames. Fire reflects off the barrel as he advances. One memorable moment has Riggs setting a goon on fire while dodging MP5K sprays from other attackers. The MP5 adds a tactical, modern edge to the film's action sequences. It represents the escalation of firepower in the franchise as Riggs faces increasingly dangerous enemies. Halfway through the list at number 3, we have the Colt single-action army from both Maverick, released in 1994, and the Patriot from 2000. The Colt single-action army, often called the Peacemaker, holds legendary status in American firearms history. William Mason and Charles Richards designed it for Colt in 1872. The Army adopted it in 1873. It chambers 45 Colt rounds and originally came with a 7.5-inch barrel, though shorter variants like the 4.75-inch quick-draw model also exist. The revolver weighs 2.3 pounds and holds 6 rounds. Muzzle velocity sits around 860 feet per second. To fire it, you have to cock the hammer manually before each shot. That simple mechanism made it incredibly reliable. Over 357,000 were produced by 1941. Cowboys, lawmen, and outlaws all carried the Peacemaker throughout the late 1800s. Gibson wields this revolver in 2 very different films. In Maverick, directed by Richard Donner, Gibson plays Brett Maverick, a charming gambler working his way through the Old West. The tone is light and comedic. Maverick carries a quick-draw model with wooden grips. One scene shows him demonstrating his quick-draw skills in a saloon. He fans the hammer rapidly to disarm several opponents before anyone can react. The revolver's clicks build tension right before the comedic payoff. During a bandit ambush later in the film, Maverick cracks jokes while firing the Colt with perfect accuracy. The contrast between the deadly weapon and his relaxed attitude makes for entertaining viewing. The Patriot presents a completely different use of the same firearm. Here, Gibson's Benjamin Martin fights in the Revolutionary War. Now, the Colt single-action army did not exist in 1776. It would not be invented for almost 100 years. The filmmakers took creative license for cinematic effect. After British soldiers murder his son, Martin ambushes them in the forest. He fires the revolver with deliberate precision. You see him cock the hammer, take aim, and pull the trigger. Smoke drifts through the trees after each shot. He also uses tomahawks in the same sequence, switching between weapons fluidly as he cuts through enemy soldiers. The Colt helps establish Martin's transformation from peaceful farmer to feared guerrilla fighter known as the Ghost. These two films show Gibson's range from comedic gunslinger to vengeful patriot. Coming in at number 2, the Winchester Model 1892 from Mad Max, released in 1979. John Browning designed this lever-action rifle in 1892 as a lighter version of the Model 1886. It chambered pistol-caliber rounds like .44-40 Winchester, which made it popular for riders who wanted a rifle that used the same ammunition as their revolvers. The rifle weighs around 6.5 pounds with a 20-inch barrel. Its tubular magazine holds between 9 and 12 rounds. You operate it by working the lever under the trigger guard, which ejects the spent case and chambers a fresh round. Muzzle velocity reached about 2,200 feet per second. Winchester produced over 1 million of these rifles before stopping production in 1941. Cowboys, hunters, and lawmen all relied on this firearm. In Mad Max, Gibson plays Max Rockatansky, a highway patrol officer in a near-future Australia where society is falling apart. Oil shortages have created chaos. Biker gangs terrorize the roads. Max starts the film as a man, still trying to hold on to his humanity. He carries a shotgun based on the Winchester platform, sawed off for close-range fighting. Early scenes show him investigating gang activity with the weapon slung over his shoulder. The long barrel scans the horizon like he is always watching for trouble. Everything changes when the toe cutter gang murders his wife and child. If you are a parent, this scene probably stuck with you, Max snaps. He takes the Winchester and goes hunting for revenge. One sequence shows him confronting bikers on a desolate stretch of road. He works the lever action with mechanical precision, ejecting shells as he fires again and again. Each blast sounds like a piece of his old life being destroyed. The Western origins of this rifle type contrast sharply with the dystopian setting. It makes Max feel like a frontier lawman transported into a nightmare future where law has broken down completely. This role launched Gibson to international fame and established him as an action star. And finally, at number 1, the Beretta 92 FS from Lethal Weapon, released in 1987. The Beretta 92 series traces back to the 1970s in Italy. It evolved from earlier models like the M1951 and borrowed design elements from the Walther P38, including the hinged locking block. Beretta introduced the original 92 in 1976. The 92 FS variant came with an enhanced slide safety, which prevented slide failures. It operates in double and single action modes. The barrel measures 4.9 inches. Unloaded, it weighs about 34 ounces. The magazine holds 15 rounds of 9mm parabellum. A chrome-lined barrel provides corrosion resistance. Muzzle velocity reaches approximately 1,250 feet per second. The United States military adopted the Beretta 92F as the M9 service pistol in 1985 after it won the XM9 trials. Law enforcement agencies across the country followed suit. In Lethal Weapon, Gibson plays Martin Riggs, a Los Angeles detective struggling with severe depression after his wife dies. If you have ever watched someone you care about go through pain, this performance hits different. He partners with Roger Murtaugh, played by Danny Glover, to take down drug smugglers. The Beretta 92 FS serves as Riggs' duty weapon throughout the franchise. The film introduces the gun in a deeply emotional way. Riggs sits alone in his trailer, drunk and grieving. He presses the Beretta to his own head, contemplating suicide. The cold steel against his skin amplifies his despair. He survives that moment, but the scene establishes how close to the edge he lives. Later, a target practice sequence shows a completely different side of the Beretta. Riggs steps up to the firing range and puts round after round into a target from 25 yards. When he finishes, the holes form a perfect smiley face. Murtaugh stares in disbelief. Riggs flashes a manic grin that barely hides his pain. The scene proves he channels his grief into his work, becoming lethally accurate as a way to cope. During the film's climax in the desert, Riggs' duel wields Berettas against mercenaries. The guns fire rapidly, their reports echoing across the empty landscape. Spent casings fly through the air as he takes down enemy after enemy. This firearm defined Gibson's breakthrough as a Hollywood action star. It balanced vulnerability with firepower in a way that had never been done before. The Beretta carried Riggs through all 4 films and became as iconic as the character himself. Those are 7 guns that defined Mel Gibson on screen. From flintlock pistols to modern submachine guns, each prop told part of his story as an actor. These firearms shaped characters, drove plots forward, and created moments audiences still remember decades later. Thanks for watching.